Okay. We're almost done.
We're over here.
Over here?
And then I have to turn it here.
I'll put my pinky here. Okay. I'll hold it up. Okay.
The man stopped immediately to look at her with wonder. So what are you doing here? She wanted to explain that her life was just like that, but she did not know what she meant by like that, or her life, and she said nothing. The man repeated the question, feeling curious, and at the same time wishing to be discreet. What was she doing there? Nothing, she answered to herself, about to drop from fatigue, but she did not answer him. Instead, she let him think she was crazy. Besides, she never explained herself to anyone. She knew that the man thought she was crazy, and who wouldn't? Wasn't she shamefully feeling what she just referred to as that? She felt this even though she knew how to keep her mental health on a par with her physical health. Her physical health now exhausted, she shuffled through the labyrinth on high-mileage feet, her way of the cross. She was sweating and suffocating, dressed in very heavy wool during the unseasonably severe summer heat. That summer day misfiled in the winter. Her legs hurt. They hurt under the weight of the old cross. By now she had, in a sense, resigned herself to never leaving Maracana and dying there from her weak heart. In a split second, she unconsciously glimpsed that everyone was anonymous, because no one is the other, and the other didn't know the other. Then that person is anonymous, and now she is tangled in that deep and mortal well, in the body's rebellion. Body of invisible depths in which the rats and lizards of her instincts scurried about, veiled in malignant shadows. And was everything out of time, fruit out of season? Why hadn't the other old woman advised her that this could happen until the end? In old men she had seen many lecherous eyes, but not in old women, out of season, and she was alive, as if she were someone. She who was no one. Mrs. George B. Xavier was no one.
So hard. Okay. There. No.
This.
Okay.
No one knew Nemea Sanchez until the moment she came forward, climbing the creaking wooden steps with great caution, and once, on the platform, offered the mayor the velvet pillow which lay in her outstretched hands. Over here. Soon, one of the greatest aspirations of the neighborhood inhabitants, not only of the women, but also some of the men, was to have in their homes one of the pillows embroidered by Nemea Sanchez. One man, who was more daring than the rest, was able to find out where she lived, and actually went to her house to place an order for a pillow. When he talked about it, it turned out that he was unable to explain anything about Nemea Sanchez, or who she lived with. Perhaps she didn't live with anyone, because he didn't encounter anyone at all in the dining room, or hear sounds emanating from the kitchen, or the bathroom, or from the floor above. This fact would have caused alarm, since the houses of the neighborhood were only allotted to families with children, but as she was the creator of the embroidered pillow, the normal rules did not apply. The first batch of pillows, which came with a surprising velocity from Nemea Sanchez's house, always pertained to giraffes. In order to not repeat herself, the embroiderer placed the giraffe in the most implausible settings. After situating it in a jungle, she placed it on plateaus with a large golden sun, then between multiple suns, later between moons, and when she felt she had quite exhausted the possibilities of the African landscape, she placed it in the middle of rivers and waterfalls, and finally set it down in her own neighborhood. This last pillow visibly disconcerted its owner and the spectators. The giraffe, always in profile, was imprisoned by superimposed houses, which obviously recalled the outlines of the neighborhood buildings. Nemea Sanchez put curtains with violet flowers in the windows, the likes of which didn't exist in the area, but she was not able to disguise it completely. The client felt cheated, since the magic of the pillows consisted in their ability to transport the owner to another reality, to imaginary African landscapes, forests, or plains. With a certain apprehension, the client returned the pillow with the giraffe between the houses. The following day she returned to explain herself to the embroiderer, but the door remained obstinately closed. Although it was clear that Nemea Sanchez was inside, neither did she open the door to other clients that insisted on knocking, but greeted them instead with unconcealed hostility. The next day, almost at dawn, the people of that block saw the sacristan knocking at Nemea Sanchez's door. He entered, and was there for a short while. It was futile to ask him anything afterward, since he belonged so little to this world. After the incident, the neighbors once again entertained themselves, keeping watch over Nemea Sanchez's house. They noted that for 3 days she did not even show her face in the street, and on the 4th she left carrying, in her unique manner, a large package wrapped in newspaper, which, without a doubt, contained a pillow. The only surprising and unusual thing was that she carried it wrapped. A neighbor woman who was one of her clients stopped to ask her in a humble voice if she would show the pillow to her, but Nemea Sanchez just glared at her and continued directly to the church. She went in and came out of the dark cave where the priest was located in no more than a matter of minutes. It was Sunday. At the usual hour the people met for Mass. The woman, many small children interspersed among them, and a few old people sat near the entrance. A long time passed and the priest did not appear. Noon arrived and the women, a little afraid, looked at each other and shrugged their shoulders. At last 2 got up, crossed the black corridor which led to the sacristy and the priest's quarters, and knocked. They knocked a long time without answer. Finally, the door opened slightly, and the sacristan appeared, wide-eyed and slavering, murmuring incomprehensibly. It wasn't possible to understand him until he shut the door and they heard the lock turn. The people outside withdrew in the midst of frightened comments. Nope, nothing was seen of the priest for 15 days. When he climbed up to the pulpit 2 Sundays later, he looked like he had 1 foot in the grave. A sudden decrepitude had overtaken him, dispelling the vainly apocalyptic air which had held the people in terror of hell. He died shortly thereafter, and although no one understood clearly what had transpired, they all assumed it had to do with Nemea Sanchez's black velvet pillow, which no one had ever got to see.
Done.
Ow. My eyes hurt.
I told you. See what it...
Sometimes it hates us.